process. Somebody without any vested interest in this that can actually then also guide them through the process and at least present the various options and get them to see what the financial outcomes be. It becomes very, very important. And particularly with the scattering of the people as well, having somebody else that's there. And it can be different levels of support mechanisms. It might just be knowing that the home they've selected, that there's people in that home who have an awareness of all the other support areas that are available and are going to make referrals and be able to help with those ideas and thoughts as well. It might be a financial planner that can go through and look at the numbers and do the analysis. It might be a solicitor that can look at the legal contracts. It might be another service provider that can help choose the particular home if they haven't already made that decision and they aren't aware of what's available in the local area. So there's a whole range of different areas. I think it's about the way we can provide the information and support to those people. From a financial sense, if we have a look at this scenario here, we've got Delia, who has the following assets. She's got a home, some contents in her home, a little bit in the bank, not much, and some of her superannuation still left over in an account-based pension. So not huge amounts of assets, but she's still got a reasonable amount at her age and enough probably to get her through. But most of it is tied up in the family home, which is fairly typical for this demographic of people and a lot of the people you will see coming to your facilities as well. She currently, with those level of assets, will get the full age pension, which for a single person is now $17,500. It's going up slightly again on the 20th of March. These are the current figures. And let's just assume she's been asked to pay a bond of $400,000. So she's got an issue there, and this automatically sends families into panic as well, and this is where a lot of the fear and scepticism, I think, comes out of, because they've got to pay an upfront bond of $400,000. She clearly has sufficient assets to warrant that being charged, but doesn't have enough in readily disposable cash. So she's got to make a decision about, does she sell an asset? Well, it's usually not her making the decision, it is usually the family. Does she sell that asset, or does she take out a reverse mortgage to fund it? Does she get the resources to the children? Excuse me, do the children come up with the money to fund it? So how does she do that? Or does she have the option or capacity to arrange with you to do it as a periodical payment rather than as a lump sum as well? There's a whole pros and cons about that. We'll come back and talk about that in a minute. So I guess this is their immediate fear, and so therefore then the scepticism comes out about, well, why is mum being forced to sell her house just to move into aged care? This is a terrible scenario, what an awful government, what an awful facility, and that's where we start from. So again, it's trying to work through the logistics and financial planning to show them that there are options, that it isn't all doom and gloom, can help actually allay some of those fears, I think, as well. So in this particular case, what I want to do is show you why it is important to have a look at finances, because I think quite often what a lot of people do is just rush out and sell the house, and that's an immediate reaction because they go, well, that's what I'm going to have to do, that's what the government's forcing me to do. That may be a good decision, it may not. The importance is that they have to know all of the things that they should take into consideration when making that actual decision. That's the important bit. I should say as we go through, if anyone wants to ask me a question, please ask it as we go through rather than sitting there thinking about it and trying to remember it because you won't be listening. So feel free to ask a question, make a comment. I'm really happy for this to be a little bit interactive as well. So her immediate reaction would be go out, sell that house. Now that can actually mean maybe the market's depressed and it's a bad time to sell. So the going out and selling it can have a very significant financial cost by the wrong timing. You might think you have to sell it quickly, then that again might mean they settle for a lower price than they should. It starts to cause, again, family rifts and family fights about what the house is worth and whether they should sell or not. So some of the options we've got, and we've looked at a whole range of things, and it really is about taking the person's entire financial situation and making an assessment about what are the impacts, and then looking, once you've got the impacts, what the risks might be as well. So I haven't given you a detailed step-by-step on how all the fees work here. I just want to show you what differences can arise. So in this particular case, what we've done is suggested, what if she does go out and sells the home? So, and for the purpose of this, I've ignored the fees that would be involved in selling the home, just to make it really simple. She sells the home, she's now got the cash to pay the $400,000 bond, leaves her $550,000 sitting in investments, and let's just assume they're at 5%. Some of that is still her account-based pension, some of it's sitting in a bank account as well. So the actual investment earnings we've got, it gives her about $27,500 a year. So we need to look at all of these things. There's other things that we would look at in there as well, but I've just simplified it. We would also look at just the costs of maintaining and setting up investments. We would look at the taxation implications, but for most people in residential aged care, they should pay very little tax because of the medical tax offsets and other benefits that they get. For this particular case, we can generate $27,500 of income. She's taken a hit to her age pension. So she was getting the full age pension of $17,000. Because she's had to sell the house, and that's turned the asset from being exempt into an assessable asset, the bond is exempt. So that's still exempt, but what's left over is going to be assessment. So she's lost about $10,000 off the age pension. It's not going to make them happy in the first instance because that pension is all consuming, must get as much as we can, is sometimes the focus. But when you look at it in the scheme of it, she's still got extra money available. It's now earning her income where it wasn't before. So that can compensate for that loss of pension too. So we've got total income of about $35,000. The daily fees, we are going to pay base fee. She will also pay a small amount of the income tested fee as well, based on the fact that she's got this money sitting in the bank account earning her income. So she's going to pay some fee. No interest costs because she hasn't borrowed anything, she's been able to fund it. So for her, it's not a bad outcome in that even though she's lost the age pension, she's got more than enough income coming in each year that she can actually meet her expenses. She's still got $20,000 extra a year to pay for the other incidentals that she would need to do, or extra care fees, or the hairdresser bills, presents for the grandchildren, all of those other things as well. So it works for her. But the question is it a good option? Is it the best option? What else would she actually do to fund that? I haven't looked at the periodical payment. It's obviously one option there as well. What I have looked at is just then the next one is saying, what if we borrowed the money? What if we used a reverse mortgage? So again, we have to take that decision with a lot of advice as well, because the reverse mortgage are quite ideal for these people to be able to keep the home, to get finance against the home without putting pressure on their day-to-day expenses. But we do need to make sure that the kids are very well informed of what's happening and are comfortable with why it's being done and the total financial implications, because there can be some very good strategies using reverse mortgages. We also are limited in that she'll only be able to borrow, not necessarily how much she wants to, but she's going to be limited by a percentage of the value of the house. It's usually up to about a maximum of 40% is about the maximum she'll probably get. So that's going to limit how far she can use a reverse mortgage. You might find that maybe she needs to do a combination. She might do a combination of reverse mortgage and periodical payment, or a combination of taking the money out of her account-based pension, using that to pay some bond and some as a reverse mortgage. So there's a whole lot of variations in here that a planner would work through with the client. I've also, in this particular case, just to minimise the cost in that as well, is taken that $100,000 out of her account-based pension, and we have used that to pay bond. So what we said is we're going to borrow $300,000, use the $100,000 of her own funds, and that's partly because of the restrictions on how much you can borrow, and to keep the costs down. Because we need to make a decision going, is that more tax effective than to keep the money invested and to pay the interest as well? You can see there, and then we've rented the house out. She's still got $10,000 in the bank, not a lot. She has got a little bit for some incidentals. And she might do it different. She might leave $30,000 or something like that to make it more comfortable. But there's not a definite answer for her. And we've rented the house out.